Warning, this video will contain spoilers for The Flash Season 2 and The Flash comic New 52 Volume 7. The great thing about theories is that you can have multiple of them, and in this video I will talk about another theory for The Flash Time Remnants on the TV show. If you haven't seen my other video on Time Remnants, I will put a link in the description. Starting off by saying, Time Remnant is basically just a broad term of a past or future version of somebody. For this theory, I will mostly talk about the difference between killing your ancestors and killing your past self. In the first video, I talked about how I thought that the Flash TV show did not adapt the logic from the comics, but now I think that it just might. In the comic, Future Barry, aka Blue Flash, says that changing the past changes the future, but it won't affect him because he's not in that future anymore. I assumed this was not the TV show logic because when Eddie shot himself, Eobard still died, and Eobard was from the future, but he still died when he was in the past. But I was reading Volume 7 of The Flash yesterday, and there was something that Blue Flash said that made me reconsider. He said, "The Speed Force, it won't allow two versions of us to be in the same place at the same time." Because of this, it kicked the younger Barry into the Speed Force, and it left the future Barry in the timeline, but it made the future Barry 20 years younger, basically so he could replace younger Barry. This is the Speed Force's way of correcting itself. This is where the new theory comes into play. Basically, if you go back in time to a time where you already exist, then the Speed Force doesn't see it as a future you. It just sees it as two versions of you in the same time. So it wants one of them out. So either you kill one of them sacrifices themselves, or one of them will eventually get just taken in by the Speed Force. And then whichever version remains, that one becomes the age that you should be at that time, basically replacing their other self. This is why Zoom said to Barry, "You just have to be willing to kill yourself." Now this is why descendants and ancestors are different. Eobard isn't just a future version of Eddie. So when he goes back in time, there doesn't need to be one Eddie. There can be an Eobard and an Eddie. So then when Eddie kills himself, that's just why Eobard doesn't exist anymore. Now, to answer why Eobard came back in Season 2, and to confirm that everything that Eobard did still happened even though he was erased from history, we're going to watch this clip.
Eddie Thawne died, so Eobard Thawne should have been erased out of existence, right?
Not necessarily. It's possible Eobard was in the Speed Force, protecting him like a bomb shelter, keeping him alive and his timeline intact. It's what's known as the timeline remnant.
What now?
Here, let me show you. This is now, here, today. This is the time Thawne comes from. This is the moment you all erased him from existence, but since Thawne is from the future, this is where his timeline begins. That's why he's still alive. This Thawne has not yet traveled back in time to kill Barry's mother. He's here now in this time period for the first time. Timeline remnant.
Explains why nothing's changed.
Yeah, it also explains why he didn't know my name, or that we have met before.
To him, you hadn't, not until the future.
If Thawne dies before he can time travel again, will that save Barry's mother?
No, it's not how it works. In our timeline, Barry's mother's already dead, and her death is a fixed point, and nothing can change that.
All right, well, I'm gonna end this, him, in this time, once and for all.
So basically what this clip is saying is that to make the alternate future where Eobard doesn't exist possible, Eobard still had to go back in time and grow up with Flash and do all that stuff so that he would eventually be erased from history. So it all still happened, but in Eobard's past. It also explained that Nora is still dead because it's a fixation point in history. So Zoom still would go back in time, kill his mother, grow up with Flash, get erased from history, and then they're all okay. So basically it's saying that the Speedster's timeline is still protected by the Speed Force. So Eobard's past is still protected in order to eventually make the future where he doesn't exist possible. This is why Eobard came back in Season 2, because that was from his past timeline. Anyway, this is just another theory. Which theory do you guys prefer, Theory 1 or Theory 2? Let me know in the comments.